All right, so we've got a pretty hefty stack of articles here all about the future of AI. And one name that keeps popping up over and over again is NVIDIA. Their upcoming earnings report has everyone on the edge of their seats. It feels like the whole tech world is holding its breath to see if they can keep up this insane growth they've been having.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of anticipation around NVIDIA right now. They've pretty much established themselves as the king of the hill when it comes to training AI models, those big brains that are powering all these new AI applications.
But from what I'm gathering from these articles, it's not all sunshine and roses for NVIDIA. They're facing some pretty stiff challenges, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. One thing that really jumped out at me is this distinction between training AI models and actually using them, what's called inference. NVIDIA's dominance is really in that training phase, but the inference market is a whole other ballgame.
Okay, so maybe break that down for me a little bit. What's the difference between training and inference, and why does it matter for NVIDIA?
Imagine you're teaching a dog a new trick. That training process takes time, effort, and lots of repetition. Inference is like when the dog actually performs the trick on command. NVIDIA might be the best at teaching those tricks, but their control over the trick performing part, the inference market, isn't as absolute. They've got competition there.
Oh, okay. So even if NVIDIA is making bank from training these massive AI models, there's no guarantee they're going to dominate the entire AI landscape.
Exactly. And then you've got these other factors to consider. Like one of the articles mentioned concerns about the functionality and production of their chips. And we're not talking about software glitches here. This is about physical limitations of the hardware, which could really put a damper on their growth plans.
And on top of that, you can't ignore the whole geopolitical situation. The U.S.-China trade restrictions on chip exports, that's a major curveball, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's already had a noticeable impact on NVIDIA's bottom line, and it's likely to be an ongoing concern. These restrictions create so much uncertainty, Can NVIDIA find ways to work around them? Will it stifle their growth in a key market? These are questions investors are really wrestling with.
So it's like NVIDIA's in this three-way tug of war between competitors, production challenges, and a trade war.
Yeah.
Talk about a high-pressure situation.
It really is, and it makes you wonder if there might be another player out there, someone with a totally different approach to AI, one that doesn't rely on the same chip technology that's at the heart of this whole struggle.
You're talking about quantum computing, right?
Yeah.
That company, Quantum Machines, just raised a massive $170 million. What's the story there? Why is everyone so excited about quantum computing?
Quantum computing is a total game changer. It's like comparing a flickering candle to a supernova in terms of processing power. Imagine a computer that can solve problems that would take our current supercomputers thousands of years, all in a fraction of the time.
Wait, hold on. Are you telling me that quantum computers are actually being used right now? I thought that was still science fiction.
It might sound like something out of Star Trek, but it's real. One of the articles we have here actually quotes Dr. Itamar Sivan, the CEO of Quantum Machines. He says that corporations, government labs, even startups are already using quantum computers, and the demand is only going to skyrocket as the technology matures.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. So we've got NVIDIA battling it out for control of the AI chip market, but this quantum computing thing could be a total disruptor. It's like they're playing checkers and quantum computing is about to pull out a chessboard.
That's a pretty good analogy. And it makes you wonder, could quantum computing be the key to unlocking a whole new level of AI capabilities, something that goes beyond even what NVIDIA's chips can achieve? It's a really fascinating question.
It really is. But while we're on the subject of AI shaking things up, we can't forget about Amazon. They're making some pretty bold moves to bring AI into our everyday lives with this new version of Alexa they're rolling out.
Yeah, Amazon is definitely making a big push in the AI space. And if you think about it, they're kind of trying to do something similar to NVIDIA, but on the consumer side. They want to be the company that controls how we interact with AI on a daily basis.
But the articles we're looking at here point out that it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing for Alexa. Previous attempts to integrate it into things like shopping haven't really taken off.
That's true, and there's definitely some skepticism out there. One article even quoted a Bloomberg analyst, Spencer Super, who argued that people might be hesitant to trust AI with important decisions. I mean, it's one thing to ask Alexa about the weather, but trusting it with your finances or health decisions is a whole different story.
Yeah, I can see that. It's almost like there's this trust gap that needs to be bridged. And that's not even considering all the potential privacy concerns people have about AI listening in on their lives.
All valid points. But on the other hand, you can't deny Amazon's commitment to this. They've publicly stated that they're investing more in AI than any other company out there. They're clearly betting big on this being the future.
And they do have a knack for disrupting industries. Remember what they did to bookstores with Amazon Prime. Could this be their Amazon Prime moment for AI?
It's an interesting parallel. If they can overcome these hurdles and convince consumers to embrace Alexa as more than just a novelty, it could really be a game changer in how we interact with technology.
So to sum it all up, we've got NVIDIA slugging it out in the chip arena, Amazon trying to bring AI into our homes, and quantum computing lurking in the background as a potential disruptor. It's a fascinating three-way dance, and it feels like we're just getting started.
It really is. And each of these players brings something unique to the table. NVIDIA's got the hardware muscle, Amazon has that massive consumer reach, and quantum computing has the potential to rewrite the rules entirely.
It's almost like a three-ring circus, but instead of clowns and acrobats, we've got chips, algorithms, and the future of technology.
Exactly. And it's a circus that's only going to get more exciting as these trends continue to unfold.
But I think what's really fascinating to me is how these three trends intersect. It's not just about who builds the best chips or creates the coolest gadgets. It's about how AI is going to fundamentally change the way we live, work, and even think.
You're absolutely right. And that's what we need to unpack next. What does NVIDIA's dominance mean for the future of AI development? Will Amazon's Alexa become the gateway to a more AI-driven world? And what happens when quantum computing really starts to flex its muscles?
So many questions and so much to explore, but let's take a deep breath and dive in, shall we? Because the future of AI is unfolding right before our eyes, and it's a sight to behold. Okay, so we've painted this picture of NVIDIA, kind of like the reigning champion, right? But they're not exactly sitting on a throne, are they? It's more like they're constantly running, trying to stay ahead of the pack.
Right, exactly. And it's not just about outpacing the competition in the traditional chip market. This whole quantum computing thing, it's like a wild card, isn't it? It could really shake things up.
It feels like one of those disrupt or be disrupted situations. Do you think NVIDIA sees quantum computing as an existential threat? Or could they potentially turn it into an opportunity?
It's probably a little bit of both, honestly. I mean, if quantum computing lives up to the hype, it could completely change the game for AI development, and that could be a huge problem for a company like NVIDIA, whose whole business is built around traditional chips.
I keep thinking back to the early days of personal computers. IBM was the giant, right? But they totally missed the boat on home computing, and companies like Apple and Microsoft swooped in and basically ate their lunch. Could we see a similar story play out with NVIDIA and quantum computing?
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility. The key for NVIDIA is going to be adaptability. Can they move quickly enough to incorporate quantum technology into their products? Or are they going to be stuck in the old ways while the market shifts around them? It's interesting, though, one of the articles did mention that NVIDIA is already investing in quantum research, so it seems like they're at least aware of the potential threat.
That's good, I guess. At least they're not burying their heads in the sand. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Amazon. Their strategy with AI seems to be completely different from NVIDIA's. They're less focused on raw computing power and more on bringing AI into people's everyday lives. But they haven't always been successful with that, have they?
No, they haven't. One of the articles we have here points out that Amazon has had a pretty bumpy road trying to integrate Alexa into things like shopping and other daily tasks. It seems like consumers just weren't quite ready to hand over those decisions to a voice assistant.
You know, it's funny you should mention that. I actually tried using Alexa to order groceries once, and it was a complete disaster. I ended up with a bag of cat food instead of coffee beans. Not exactly a vote of confidence.
That's a perfect example of the challenge Amazon's facing. They need to bridge that gap between novelty and usefulness. People need to see Alexa as more than just a fun gadget to play with. It needs to be a tool that actually adds value to their lives.
So how do they do that? What's the magic formula for convincing people to embrace Alexa as a trusted companion, especially when there are so many concerns about privacy and data security?
Well, I think transparency is going to be huge. Amazon needs to be really upfront about how Alexa collects and uses data. They need to give users more control over their privacy settings. And most importantly, they need to focus on building features that provide real value, things that make people's lives easier or better in tangible ways.
It's almost like they need to prove that Alexa is more than just a gimmick, that it can actually be a helpful and trustworthy assistant. But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say Amazon does manage to pull this off. What happens if Alexa does become ubiquitous? What are the implications of that?
Oh, that's where things get really interesting.
Hey,
If Alexa really does become deeply embedded in our lives, it could change our relationship with technology in a pretty fundamental way. Imagine a world where we interact with our devices mainly through voice commands, where AI is constantly anticipating our needs and offering solutions before we even know we need them.
It's a little bit like that movie Her, where the main character falls in love with his AI assistant. Do you think we could actually see a future where people form emotional bonds with their Alexis?
You know, it's not as far-fetched as it sounds. We already see people forming attachments to their smartphones and social media profiles. As AI gets more advanced and personalized, it's not hard to imagine those attachments becoming even more intense.
And that raises a whole bunch of ethical questions, doesn't it? What happens when those lines between human and machine start to blur? And what about the potential for manipulation? If Alexa knows us so well, couldn't it be used to influence our choices, maybe even without us realizing it?
Absolutely. That's why it's so crucial to have these conversations now while this technology is still being developed. We need to start thinking about ethical guidelines, safeguards, and regulations that make sure AI is being used responsibly and in a way that benefits humanity as a whole.
So it's not just about the tech itself, it's about the values that we weave into it.
Exactly. AI is a powerful tool, and like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil. It all comes down to the choices we make as a society about how we want to use it.
It's pretty heavy responsibility,
Yeah.
but it's also a really exciting time to be alive. We're basically witnessing the birth of a new era, and we have the chance to shape it in a way that benefits everyone.
I agree. And I think what's so fascinating about this whole conversation is this convergence of NVIDIA, Amazon, and quantum computing. Each one represents a different aspect of this AI revolution, and together they're pushing us towards a future that's both full of promise and uncertainty.
And that uncertainty is what makes it so captivating, right?
Yay.
We're stepping into the unknown, and that's both thrilling and a little bit scary. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be a wild ride.
Absolutely. We just need to buckle up and get ready for all the challenges and opportunities that are headed our way.
Well said. But before we get too carried away with the future, let's bring it back down to earth for a minute and talk about the practical implications of all this. What does this mean for businesses, for investors, for regular people just trying to navigate this new world?
That's a great question. And it's one we need to explore carefully, because the impact of AI is going to be felt across every single aspect of society.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. NVIDIA, Amazon, quantum computing, it's all pretty mind-blowing stuff. But I think what a lot of folks are wondering is, how does this impact me? How is this going to affect my job, my investments, my life in general?
Well, for businesses, AI is a potential goldmine, right? It can automate tasks, boost efficiency, even create entirely new products and services. Companies that jump on the AI bandwagon early on, those are the ones that are going to have a real edge.
So basically, it's adapt or die all over again, just like with the internet.
In a lot of ways, yeah. Remember what happened to companies that were slow to embrace e-commerce? The ones that clung to brick and mortar, they got left behind. And I think we could see a similar pattern with AI. The companies that figure out how to leverage it, they're the ones that are going to thrive.
And what about investors? Where's the smart money going in this AI gold rush?
Well, the smart investors, they're already looking beyond the big names like NVIDIA and Amazon. They're digging into those startups, those smaller companies that are developing the really cutting-edge AI solutions.
Kind of like those venture capitalists in the early days of the internet, right? The ones who back companies that nobody had even heard of, but ended up becoming the next Google or Facebook.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that AI is still a pretty young field, right? There's a lot of hype, a lot of speculation, but the really transformative applications, those are still emerging. It's a time of huge opportunity, but also huge uncertainty.
Makes sense. But I want to zoom out for a second, look at the bigger picture. We've talked about the economic impact, the potential for disruption, but what about the social and cultural implications of all this? How's AI going to change the way we live, the way we work, even the way we relate to each other?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think philosophers and sociologists are going to be debating that for decades to come. But I think it's safe to say that AI is going to have a massive impact on every facet of human society. I mean, think about the printing press. Think about the internet. Those were paradigm shifts. And AI has the potential to be just as transformative.
So it's not just about boosting productivity or automating jobs. It's about reshaping the very fabric of society, right?
Right. AI is going to force us to re-examine some fundamental questions. What does it mean to be human? What is the nature of work? What role should technology play in our lives? It's going to push us to confront some tough ethical dilemmas and make some hard choices about how we want to integrate AI into our world.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. And honestly, it can be kind of scary. But it's also really exciting. We're living in a time of unprecedented technological change, and the possibilities seem endless.
I agree. And I think the key takeaway here is that we need to approach AI with a healthy dose of both wonder and caution. We need to be excited about its potential, but we also need to be mindful of the risks.
So it's a balancing act.
Exactly. And it's a balancing act that we're going to have to keep working on for years to come. But if we can find that sweet spot, if we can harness the power of AI while protecting our values, our humanity, then I think we have a shot at creating a really incredible future.
That's a pretty hopeful note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive into the world of AI.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listener, we hope you've enjoyed exploring these forces that are shaping the future of technology with us. Keep asking those tough questions. Keep digging deeper. Because remember, the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create.
And the choices we make today, those are the choices that are going to determine what that future looks like.
So keep learning, keep questioning, keep pushing the boundaries. Until next time, stay curious.